Today, I need, and you might be able to help me. You see, so I consider myself hard science fiction. I write science fiction plausible as possible that I can make. Now, there are some blatantly magical nonsense things as far as physics are concerned, and in the future, I'll do videos. And you might not realize that a lot of things you take for granted, you just kind of go, oh, someone will figure that out in the future. But I'm trying to actually explain a few in a way that is not just scientifically plausible, but I keep in the back of my mind that I kind of want to be the guy that someday in the future, some actual space engineer goes, "Oh, well, I got the idea from James's. Actually, it made sense, and so I went and figured out how to make it actually work." Maybe that'll never happen. Maybe that's puffing myself up a bit too much. But hey, that's my prerogative as. Let me get to the problem. This is the second book I ever published. This is Ship of Fools. Yeah, the title not great on here. I was learning. This book takes place in the year roughly 3000, when humanity has been expanding between stars. They've colonized planets, they've terraformed planets, and there was just a big interstellar war. And this book takes place in the aftermath. Um, this is canon to my main Bastion Blackstone series, but obviously it's part. There is some info that cross references backwards. That's all good. The catch is specifically the space stations and the ships. I want them to make sense. One of the things I don't want is things like artificial gravity. You'll notice that if you read the books that the only gravity is either planetary or simulated, which obviously I'm not the first sci-fi engineer. But it's just literally how it's going to have to work most. You're either going to be under thrust or you're going to be rotated. The idea of artificial gravity basically comes from needing to make TV. If you're filming on Earth, you basically need to be using a flat, uniform gravity field because that's what you're operating under. Movie or something, whatever. Uh, I believe that, and to an extent, this is just personal flair for the way these things work. In order to deal with solar radiation, in this setting, A, they have fusion reactors. B, they use those fusion reactors to power linear accelerators because their primary mode of transportation, or in order to rocket equation, is they accelerate the fused helium atoms out the back at relativistic, which can be a little destructive to what's behind them, but things slow down. Uh, Additionally, in order to get the hydrogen and to support the humans on board the ship, because that's a big concern, the number one concern of the ships and stations and so on is the constant collection of interstellar ice. You need oxygen. That's just something that people in the year 3000 are going to have to deal with the fact that you need ice because you need to use electricity to crack it and get oxygen. If you are recirculating with a more or less closed, because of leaks, because of stability, because of the reactor, you need ice. You need a lot of so the idea is that every ship and every station is going to be ranked by tank collected and purified for use in the electrolysis. And that's where the balance comes from. So that when people are moving around the station, it doesn't start wobbling. You have computers pumping water from this spot to this spot, maintaining the and it works out. You have these layers of water that are mostly just destined process fusion reactor and so on, absorb radiation. The tanks are the outer hull for impact and so on. If micrometeors puncture in, probably just freeze at the opening. Pressure isn't actually that high but the catch is that when you have leaks, you have ships attaching and disconnecting, and just generally like a station is going to have a rate. You need to refuel breathable atmosphere, and that's the question here. For humans to breathe in space, they need oxygen, and they need that atmosphere to not blow up. Now, you could just do a 2 to 1, 66% hydrogen to 33% oxygen, lower the overall pressure down so that it's Earth level, and humans could that, but you strike a match and all right. So all that hydrogen you're cracking from electrolysis, you're gonna have to throw that in the fusion reactor or just vent it. Another thing is to maintain spin to just position. Probably going to be pressurizing some of this hydrogen out like a TO. How modern spaceships work. This is how NASA extra V navigator thing works. It's gas pointed out. It's only like the expand, which is in the beginning quite hard. They're doing the same stuff. So you have to be setting hydrogen somewhere. Now, you could just fuse it and collect all that helium and have people breathing an atmosphere of 20% oxygen. And they all talk like chipmunks because helium's going to screw up their voice and it's going to sound ridiculous. And I don't want that. I don't want that idea in my readers' heads that all the people on the space station out in space sound ridiculous. I'm trying to write serious stories. This is basically a microcosm of a civil war where people tear each other apart over the management of turning on the emergency alert, so that because they're afraid they're going to get nuked. The book I'm writing right now, also in the year 3000 canon, this is supposed to be a horror story about a biological weapon waking back up and attacking the. I don't want readers reading the story and going, they sound like the chip. But the problem is you need most gas. Someone previously said, oh, well, if you have a fusion reactor, you can just use whatever elements you want. Not really. Looking into that, the problem is most of what you have out in space, especially with what a fusion reactor is going to be trying to work with, is protons, otherwise known as hydrogen 1 ice. You go out in space and you crack ice, you're going to get hydrogen 1, just a proton. No, find that you can make, which is going to have 2 protons and no neutrons. And can't actually make a bigger element that won't just immediately neutrons and or for strong atomic force to overcome electromagnetic. So you actually would need to be other elements that, in order to get an inert gas that is in it to on the ship, you kind of need nitrogen. So where does the nitrogen come from? You need a lot of nitrogen. I have been given the basic suggestion of, oh, they just will bottle it up outside the gas giant because you have enough force to go up and down the gravity. Well, true. That's a solution. I guess that's the only solution I have right now. To restate the problem statement, where does the inert gas come from? Where do they get the literal protons and neutrons and electrons necessary to create a breathable atmosphere for a long period of time, stable, coming in and out of the state? Not hermetically. There's going to be a leak rate, and the only onboard source of air is going to be hydrogen, helium, and oxygen. Process. I guess right now, as I'm sitting here, the slow, stable is they bring in pressurized gas from whatever gas, because the constraints of the faster than light setting, basically nobody is very far away from gravity because it works in this. So maybe over a long period of time, they're pressurizing atmosphere, bringing it up reef, and they have some pressurized tanks to manage leaks. And the issue is that if you have a disaster like a swarm punches holes, or say an enemy ship bombs you, this is military sci-fi. It gets replenished with extra oxygen. They'll just lower the pressure because if you increase the partial pressure, actually hypoxia or oxygen hypoxia. It's what they do on the ISS. This was proposed in the Moon Harsh Mystery. Great book. And you just patch it up, and then over time you have to bring in more gases. And maybe the real emergency solution is, yeah, pump it full of helium, because the fusion reactor can make helium. And I'll just assert that the people in universe no longer see it as a weird thing, because it's a sign of, oh my god, we might be about to die, and nobody's going to be sitting there going, we sound like we just huffed on a balloon. It's kind of contextual that when you inhale low density, that so in universe nobody would find it funny. So it kind of gets into the universal translation trope, where you just kind of ignore the fact that, in the year 3000, I'm probably not speaking. Yeah, this entire book is written in modern English. You just kind of ignore that. And in the same way, maybe I say, you just kind of ignore that they all sound fucking weird because they're huffing helium, right? They don't find it weird, so therefore I'm not going to portray that in that. I'm never going to comment on the fact that they're squeaky. That's the best solution I have, right? I mean, you know what? As far as I'm aware, most sci-fi stories problem. Maybe I should too. Maybe I'm thinking about nothing. But I'm hoping that somebody who has sat through James, the solution you're looking for was figured out by this guy. Here's what you do: XYZ. Get the nitrogen out of the compounds in the rocky asteroid. You need to be breaking those down to make the terrarium anyway. So in the process of decomposing asteroids, you're actually going to be capturing. Oh, you've got these bacteria. Well, something. This has to be something that's already been figured out, because this is like a basic issue of interstellar colonization. Like, this is real physics. Elon Musk SpaceX is trying to get on Mars. They're going to have to figure out how to create a breathable that's replenishing itself on planet, on site. And it can't be explosive. There has to be a better solution out there. But if I can't find one, I'm just going to say steady state issue, piping it out of the gas giant, I guess. I'm hoping that somebody can let me know in the comments below. And if Ship of Fools here is any interest, the link will be in the description. By the way, I'm still advertising my new Oral Fantasy book, yada yada, book club too. And yeah, until next time, you should subscribe and like.